Why are you saying hi to Dora? Huh? Yeah, okay, that's good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thornridge Community Church. If it's your first time here, we welcome you. Stop by the coffee bar to get a gift. We are celebrating the new system that's in our church, like I just said before we started worship, and it's much more comfortable in here than it ever was in the past 3.5, 5 years that I've been here as a staff pastor and your pastor, but it's amazing. God is doing a lot of good things in this church, and I can't wait to see what else he has. We have so many things in the works. We are still collecting for back to school. I know the kids had already started school, but we got some school supplies. I am working with a partnership with an elementary school to start being the church that kind of provides stuff for them. So we're going to do back to school. We're going to do Thanksgiving meals for families that are in need. We're going to do Christmas gifts for families in need. And I'm going to try and do one other event. I would like to do something every quarter for the school, but I still have to chit chat with them. They were way too busy this week because it was the first week of school. But we're excited as a church family to start partnering with them, and I can't wait to talk with the principal and the vice principal as well. Always check out the website. There's always up-to-date information on the website about what's going on at Thornridge, thornridgecc.org. Our events are always on there. We always try and update. Our team is on there and who's in charge of what, so you know who to contact. That's pretty much it, I believe. I want to make sure the kids are out here because we got obviously one of our most favorite and exciting songs for the kids to do with us. But in the Wesleyan Church, we are proud to say that we honor women being in ministry. However you feel about that kind of stuff is what it is. You can talk to me in private because if I have to yell at you, I don't want anybody to see it. We have many women pastors in our denomination, and we celebrate during the month of September is Women in Ministry. It's called Preach Her Sunday. And I am privileged and honored this morning that my wife, Jenn, will be giving the message that God put on her heart. So here we go. Kids, you are dismissed to Kids Church.
Don't be scared.
Thank you. Good morning. He made me more nervous saying that. Thanks, Noah. I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak up here. All week I've been saying, I'm preaching this week. It's not preaching. I don't know why. We've been disagreeing all week. I'm like, I don't have the, what's the word I used? The credentials to preach. Not that
Scripture gives us all credentials.
Chris, are you teaching him your ways of interrupting? I didn't mean to call you out. Anyway, I'm so happy to see you all here today. Pastor Dave asked me, I got to call him Dave. I told you guys I can't call him pastor. As a matter of fact, at home, I say, don't pastor me. You're my husband. But I do have to call him out a little bit when he said, do you want to teach? I said, yeah, absolutely. And he goes, well, start to pray and see what God puts on your heart. God instantly was in my head. And I'm like, all right, I know what I'm preaching about. So today we're going to be talking about where do you place your hope? Or where do you get your hope from? So in talking about hope, this has really been put on my heart because this is something that I have struggled with over the years. And I would say in the past 6 months, at least, it has gotten worse and worse and worse. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But one thing I looked up is, what is the definition of hope? Hope is a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen, a feeling of trust. Pay attention to that word trust. So the word hope is in the Bible, the NIV version, because in a few versions it's different. But in NIV, the word hope is in the Bible 167 times. If God's going to put it in the Bible that many times, it's probably something we should pay attention to. But it's also something I struggle with. The first verse I want to talk about is Isaiah 40, chapter 40, verse 31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. So I want to start off by asking you this. What are things you hope for? And you know we're an interactive church, so yell out. What's something you hope for? She does. Okay, you know what? When we ask for back to school stuff, if you're in the store and you see googly eyes, just pick them up for Carol. It will make her whole entire year. And all the kids love googly eyes. So, okay, Carol hopes for more googly eyes. Who else? Yes, exactly. What else? Peace. Yep. Who here hopes to win the lottery? Who here doesn't play the lottery, so you really got to hope? I saw the lottery number the other day, and I'm like, can you even imagine? I just want a portion of it. So if any of you do play, because I don't have good luck, if you do play, don't forget me and Pastor Dave. But that is a lot of money. What'd you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard 20%, but that's my hope, okay? So do you hope to be debt-free one day? If you win the lottery, you're going to be debt-free, maybe. It depends on how you spend that money. Me, I don't know if I would be debt-free completely because I am very good with spending, not very good with saving. I can thank my dad for that. Do you hope to get good grades this semester? Or if you're, what's it called in high school or middle school? It's not a semester, right? It is? It's still a semester? I'm in school. I'm going to call myself out. I'm going to be 42 in a few days, and I am back in school at my age. And that's my hope, is that I get good grades this semester. And my other hope is that one day I'll be a labor and delivery nurse, because that is my dream. I've dreamed of it since I was a little girl and I knew what babies were. And I just said, I want to be there to watch the babies come into the world. That is my hope. Some days I'm like, I don't know what I'm thinking, being my age doing this, but you know what? If God has a plan, I have to listen. So we'll see what happens. If you're not married, do you hope to one day get married? I couldn't wait to get married when I was a kid. I was ready. I was ready. And then I did get married. And then that marriage did not go the way I hoped. And it was for a good reason, because now I'm married to Pastor Dave. And yeah, it's a pretty good marriage. I will say that. All right. So now let me ask you this. So those things that you hope for, do you trust that they will happen? I do not trust that I'm going to win the lottery, because I don't play. I can't even do scratch-its. I lose all the time. Do you put your trust in God that they will happen? Not the lottery. Because here's the thing. Pastor Dave and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. When you're praying for something, there's always going to be times that you're going to be let down. Think about this. The Eagles and the Cowboys played the other night. I'm sorry, guys. I do not care about football. But I will root for the Eagles because it's my job as a wife or something. I don't know. But so go Eagles. But there's always going to be one side that is rooting for this team and one side that is rooting for this team. So when you all are praying and hoping that the Eagles win, there's people hoping that the Cowboys win. I don't even like saying their name, and I'm not a football fan. All right. So someone's going to be let down. And I'm like, well, why are some of our prayers not answered and some are? Well, maybe some are silly, like we want the Eagles to win, or we want them to be in the Super Bowl, something like that. But what we have to remember is hope, faith, and trust, they go together. You can't have one without the other. You can, but you should keep them together, because they're kind of one and the same if you think about it. You're trusting in God. You're hoping that he will do what you want him to do, or that you're asking him to do, and you have to have the faith that he's going to do it. That is another place that I struggle. So our family has gone through a lot in the past. Oh my gosh. Andre, how long have you been in our lives? Almost 5 years? Yeah, I'm starting to see a pattern. In the past 5 years, we have gone through a lot. Dave used to say, be careful what happens around me or what you say around me. I'm going to use you in my sermon. Sorry, Andre, I had to use you. But not even just Dave and I, but like Andre and Madison. And I talked to Madison ahead of time. And Andre, I apologize, I didn't get to ask you, but you guys are one now, so you don't have a say. They have been through so much as a young married couple in the past few years. And it has affected us as well, because they live with us. They're not allowed to move out. That's my rule, until Arabella's at least 10. But just our family as a whole, it has affected us. So I'm going to get into that in a second. But other things that have happened in the past few years. A church that we used to go to that Dave was the disciple pastor for, we had some major church hurts. And we were on fire at this point. We're like, we found a church that we love. This is great. Everything was going well. They were so supportive when my dad passed. Like, It was the one church my dad went to that wasn't Catholic because he had his reasons. But he walked through those doors and he just felt so welcomed and loved, and it was amazing. And I hope this is our forever church. Maybe Pastor Dave would be a pastor there one day. I got let down. Some of the church hurts, you think, and Dave has said this before, when you're in church, you think, none of these people will hurt me. They're God-fearing people, right? We're supposed to love each other. Some of these people really messed with us. I'm going to give a little backstory, and I'm not going to use names. So in case anyone here doesn't know, Dave is Madison and BJ are our kids. He is their stepdad. I do not like that term because he is more than a stepdad. He's been the dad for them since day one. One of the things him and I never got the chance to do is we never got to have our own child. And I don't know if I talked about this before, but he was also married previously, and they made a decision that made it so he could never have any kids. Well, my hope was so big as a Christian, as a new Christian, that I'm like, you know what? I did all kinds of studies, and I heard of these women getting pregnant by their husbands who were unable to have kids, and it just miraculously happened, and things went back together that were taken apart, and it was perfect. And I hoped and I prayed, and I hoped and I prayed, and I hoped and I prayed, and I said, we have so much love to give another child. Please bless us with a baby. Bless my kids with another sibling. We are 17 years married, 19 years together. And we still have our 2 kids. We love them unconditionally sometimes. We love our kids, but that's still a little piece that has been missing. It's something that we have to work through. But when we were at this church, there was a couple there, and we weren't super close with them. They had pulled me aside, and they said, the wife said, will you and Dave come over to our house for dinner this week? And I said, sure, absolutely. Again, we weren't that close, so I thought maybe they're trying to, build a bond with us. So we go over to their house, and she says, they have a son who was under a year old at this point. She says, I went to rescue a cat, and I ran into my ex, and there's no kids on Landon's here. Something bad happened, and I am pregnant. And she said, I already talked to my husband, and there's no way we can raise this baby that came out of this difficult situation. She said, we want you and Dave to raise this baby. I cried, he cried, they cried, we all cried. It was, our dreams were coming true. I thanked God the whole way home. I thanked God over and over and over and over again. And then something felt weird. She had asked me if I would go to a counseling session with her, and I said, okay, that's fine. She wanted me to take her, so I went with her, and she was being very weird. When we were leaving there, she goes, can you take me to the hospital? I'm not feeling good. I'm like, sure, absolutely. She says, I'm starting to bleed. I think I might be having a miscarriage. And I said, let's get you right over there. Maybe God wouldn't give us this opportunity and take it away, because that's the hope I had. I said, so let's go. Let's get you checked out. Prayerfully, it's something small. We get to the hospital, and the doctor says, I'm going to examine her. I'm going to do an ultrasound, all the things. I don't want an ultrasound. And the doctor said, well, if I don't do an ultrasound, I can't figure out what's going on. Nope, you're not doing an ultrasound on me. So he said, I'm going to give you a few minutes. And he walks out, and I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to her. And I said, why wouldn't you get an ultrasound? I'm like, that's going to determine if everything's okay. Prayerfully, if everything's okay, you're going to get to see the baby. We're going to get to see the baby. Not doing an ultrasound on me. I said, okay. So let me ask you a question. Are you pregnant? And she looked at me. She's like, why would you ask me that? I said, are you pregnant? Yeah, I'm pregnant. Why would I ask you guys to raise this baby if I wasn't pregnant? I said, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you pregnant? And she sat there and said nothing. She never had a baby. There was never a baby in her stomach. She brought us over. She hooked us in. And she offered this thing that he and I had been dreaming of for years at this point. It never existed. I left her at the hospital. I said, you have a husband, you have family, find a way home. I can't stay here with you because I don't know what I'll do when I get behind the wheel with you. I cried. I yelled at God. I said, why would you do this to us? Because that's what I do. I go right to God. Why would you? When the way that I was brought up, Catholic, but even when I became a Christian, I thought God is bigger than anything in this entire world. He can do anything, and he can. And I know that because it's in me. I know it. I read it in the Bible. But I also know that he can allow other things to happen that we don't agree with. And I said, why are you allowing this to happen? This is the one thing that I didn't want you to touch unless you could do it 100%, because this is something we have struggled with. This is something we have missed. Needless to say, we never talked to them again, and I found out she had done this to another couple too. This was a pattern. That was my first church hurt. Someone who was super close there with me, again, those of you who don't know, my mom and I are not super close. MJ, when's the last time I talked to her? Mother's Day, I think. She's my mom. I love her, but she can go months without talking to us, and then she'll reach out, and it is what it is. This woman was like a mom to me. She brought me under her wing. She heard what we had went through with the non-baby, and she took me in. We were meeting weekly, and we were just talking about the Bible, and we were digging into different things, and it was absolutely amazing. My mouth is so dry. I don't know how you do this. It was amazing. And I looked at her and I said, I love my mom. I will never take away from her that she's my mom, but you are the mom I've always wanted. So she continued to mentor me, and we were working through the Bible together. And then I was a pastor's wife at this point. So she would sit on the other side of the sanctuary, and at the end of church, I would get a text message. Why didn't you sing today? And I was like, what do you mean? I didn't see your lips moving. I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was being watched. But okay, I had a sore throat. I didn't want to, my throat was actually hurting. I didn't want to sing. The next week, why didn't you have your hands raised today? And I'm like, I don't raise my hands unless I feel it. It's not just an act that I do. Another week, why didn't you get up and pray for anyone that was up at the altar? Again, that's between me and God. If I don't feel it, I'm not going to go up and fake something. So this started happening more and more and more. She started criticizing what I was wearing, that I wasn't getting back to the back of the sanctuary fast enough to say goodbye to people. And I'm like, you're supposed to be someone, I just said to you, you're like a mom to me, and now you're sitting here criticizing me, which is something I grew up with. I have a mom who does that. I don't need another one. And I had to cut that relationship off because it was getting so toxic to the point where I was like, if this is church people, I'm out. And I said to him, I'm out. I can't do this. This is not fair. I'm going to worship God, and I'm being watched from the other side of the room. Shouldn't you be looking forward? Why are you looking over here? That was church hurt number 2. Church hurt number 3, we could not see it at the time. I'm going somewhere with this, I promise, is things were going really good. Madison surprised us with a baby. You know the story of our granddaughter. We love her to death. The people at the church loved her. They filled our house with everything we needed for a brand new baby that we knew nothing about. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is our home place. And then things happen in my family because my family is not perfect. Sorry, Dom. Sorry, Alyssa. Sorry, MJ, Ray. We are not perfect. I don't think any family is. Some things were happening. Well, again, we were being watched because Dave is now a pastor, and he was let go. No reason, no hard feelings. We're revamping the church. Okay. Church hurt number 3. I'm done. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I said, these people who have walked alongside you, they walked alongside me, they're just like left and right, stabbing us in the back. What is the point of all this? And I said, God, I'm losing hope in you, because if this is church, I don't want to do it anymore. Church hurt number 3. But now we are here. And the thing that I'm getting with the hope is, what I could not see, and that's in all of those situations, is there was hope on the other side. Pastor Dave got to come here. I told him he was visiting churches. I said, I'm out for a little bit. You can go visit churches. And he did. He went to various churches. And then he remembered he had helped Pastor Andrea, who was the pastor here previously. He had helped with some work around here. And he's like, let me reach out. Long story short, we're here. At the time, we could not see that God's plan that was so messy that we're like, why are you doing this? He wasn't doing it to us. He was doing it for us. He was getting us out of a situation where now we are in a church where we feel more love for you guys, and we feel more loved by you guys than any place that we've ever been. And we absolutely love it. But in the midst of that, I lost hope because I could not see what was on the other side. See, I'm someone, I need the whole plan. Lay it all out for me. One of the things I'm struggling with in school is I need to be hands-on. I need to touch things. And right now I'm not touching. So it's hard for me to grasp things. I'm learning about the brain and stuff I learned in school that I was like, who cares? And now I have to. And I'm like, I need to touch something. Let me touch a brain and feel it. But that's the type of person I am. So when I'm just thinking about hope, I'm like, if it's not something I can touch, I have a hard time with it. I have a hard time having that hope and that trust. Another thing that happened to our family, and Dave's talked about this, is we lost my dad. It'll be 7 years at the end of this month. In the midst of that, I was angry at God. I said, you just took my best friend, and I'm sorry. And I actually know that my mom knows that I thought this. I said, you took the wrong parent. I was mad at God again. I'm like, literally, I sat and took care of my dad day in and day out while he was sick. And I just kept praying and praying. And while he would sleep in the bed, I was sitting in the recliner right next to him praying, God, just save him. Imagine the testimony that he could have telling people I beat lung cancer. Just something that it's not really heard of. I went to sleep one night, woke up, and my dad was gone. And I'm like, and this is my conversation with God. I'm like, dude, really? Again? Like, haven't we been through enough in the past few years? And now you're taking my best friend? How am I supposed to have hope through all that? Then we're going to move on to more recent, like I said, in the past 5 years. Madison's actually going to be one of the speakers up here, so I'm not going to take too much of her story. But Madison, we all know Arabella was a miracle for many reasons. Madison has suffered. We can't even count on two hands anymore how many miscarriages she has suffered through in the past couple of years. And in the beginning, you start to say, okay, it could be this, it could be that, it could be, and then you start to go, but God, where are you at? Why are you not in the midst of this? So back in October, they had announced that she was pregnant to the family because she was far enough along at this point where we felt comfortable, and we're like, this is awesome. Only to a few weeks later start bleeding and lose that baby. She got pregnant again pretty quickly, and in January, we were super excited, and I said, Madison, she had called me. I was on the way to a doctor's appointment, and she said, Mom, you're not going to believe this. I took a test, and I'm pregnant again, and I lost it. She said, and from what I'm calculating, my due date would be around your birthday. And I'm like, I heard God. This is it. This is their rainbow baby. So we cried. We were super excited. I got home on my hands and knees for the first time in my life. And I said, God, even if it means taking my life, please give her this baby. Because I have seen the hurt that this girl and her husband have endured for many, many years now with all these losses. I said, please, even if it means taking me, please give them this baby. Take my arm, take my leg, whatever you need to take, please give this to them. And I said, Madison, I really feel this is it. Like, it's going to happen. And then right before Pastor's spouse retreat, she had an ectopic pregnancy. And what's even harder is we went to the hospital and they said, your numbers are dropping. We went somewhere else and they said, no, your numbers have actually gone up. So I started to have hope in God. God, you're doing something, like, this is amazing. And then a few hours later, oh no, your numbers are dropping. And I'm like, why is the God who's supposed to love me doing this yo-yo back and forth? Like, it's good. No, it's not. It's good. No, it's not. So now the bitterness in me is really starting to build up every time she has a miscarriage, every time we go through this. And I'm like, they said, we're going to take you back for an ultrasound because, it could be some fluke thing. They take her back, they do an ultrasound, and the doctor actually said, everything looks good. I think you're going to be okay. It was ectopic. He said to me, are you still going to go to Pastor's spouse retreat? And I said, no, I cannot go and sit there and pretend that I like God right now because I don't like him. I said, as a matter of fact, I think I'm done. I don't want to do church anymore. And I'm pretty sure that Sunday I missed church. I said, I can't do it. I don't even want to get out of bed, but I do. I said, but I'm not walking back in church because I'm not going to sit there and play that, oh, how are you doing today? I'm doing great. When deep down inside, I'm like, I am angry at God and I want to know where he is in the midst of all this. We went to Pastor's spouse retreat. I kicked and screamed the whole way there because I didn't want to go. And we were loners. We got to the dinner that night and we sat at this table. They had a bunch of round tables and everyone, I love Pastor's spouse retreats, but everyone knows everyone and we're still kind of new. So we sat by ourselves. And Dr. Carl, who you all know is the district superintendent, he came over and he goes, why don't you two go join that table over there? And inside, I'm like, really? Like, I was hoping we just kind of like blended in. No one saw us. We went and we sat at this table, and I was like, I don't want to be here. This is like, my daughter is at home currently miscarrying. I just want to be with her. I don't want to be here hearing, God, 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 please just let me go home. And we sat down and we met 3 other couples, and I word vomited. They said, how are you? What's your name? Where are you from? And I was like, Puh. Everything that had been going on in our lives came out, and I sat there and I'm like, I don't know where that came from, and I'm really sorry because you're all strangers, and I just told you every little detail of our lives and what's going on and how angry I am, and please don't judge me. These people came around me. I have goosebumps right now. These people came around me and they hugged me. They prayed on us. They prayed over us. They prayed for Madison, and it was the most amazing prayers I've ever heard. I don't even know where it came from. And we just sat there and cried through that dinner. And I said, okay, God, I get it. This is who you are. One of the things that, when I think of God and Jesus, I know they're the same, but when I think of God and Jesus, I think of God who is the Father. He sent the floods. He did this. He did that. When I think of Jesus, these 2 words during the trials that we've been going through over the past few years, these 2 words have been coming up in my head. Jesus wept. And it helped me remember that, yeah, I am hurting right now. He's hurting. Madison's hurting. We're all hurting. Arabella asks for a baby brother or sister every single day. And I don't know why God's not allowing it. And I may never know. But when we sat there and these people who don't know us sat there and prayed over us, they showed me who God still is. And I just say that to tell you that just because he stands up here every Sunday and I'm his wife, we're not perfect. Our lives are far from perfect. We still hurt. We still get angry. In my opinion, because I've prayed a lot to God now about this, he's okay with us being angry. He's angry too. And I think that's the most important thing is for us to remember. And I think that's why I relate so much to Jesus. Not that I don't love God, but I relate so much to Jesus because I remember he literally walked this earth. He felt what I'm feeling right now. He felt that pain. And somewhat, we actually just last night, we were celebrating my birthday. All I wanted to do was go home and sleep, but we celebrated my birthday. And we were just talking about loving those who some people would say aren't worthy of that love. Jesus loves everyone. Someone just very ignorantly said to me last night, and I know I'm spiderwebbing, why do you allow people in your church who, I'm sorry, girls, I love my sister and my sister-in-law, who are a lesbian couple? Would you ever allow transgender to walk into your church? Why not? Jesus didn't sit with perfect people. He sat with the broken. Everyone is broken. Everyone has something going on. Just because you're a transgender, guess what? You might love God more than I've loved God in the past year or 2. We can't just assume that, oh, you should be counted out because this is the lifestyle that you choose. Why? God doesn't count us out. I almost cursed him. This last miscarriage, I said to him, I'm done with worship music. I said, I am done with your Christian movies. I'm not going in your church again. I know it's not your church, but I said your church because I was angry at him. And we argued back and forth because he said, then what do you have? And I said, I have what I need. I have what I have. I have my family. And he goes, and how far is that going to get you? Have you ever been let down by your family? A lot. All the way back to my childhood, I have been let down. Disney World was dangled in front of us kids multiple times and taken away from us right before we were supposed to leave. I have been let down. So we said, why are you just going to turn your back on God? You've been hurt time and time and time again by people, and you're still there for them and you still love them. Why are you turning your back on God? And I said, don't talk to me about God right now. I don't want to hear it. And if you come in our house, we have faith verses all over. And I don't say that to gloat. Our kids have actually joked that, like, you walk in our house and it's like you feel like you can't say anything bad because it's like God's everywhere. And I was like, I don't want any of this. Like, take it all away. I'm done. And I got in the car the one day, and I don't know where I was going, but I turned on the radio, and K-Love was always on. Nope, change the station. I'm not doing that, God. I'm done. But I was still talking to him. So I'm done with God, but I'm still having a conversation with him. Someone messaged me, they were having problems, and they're like, hey, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, let me pray for you. That's not being done with God. It was in my terms, though. I'm like, oh, I'm done with God. I'll pray for you, but I'm done with God. So moving forward, my newest prayer, and this is kind of silly, is, because my hope slowly comes back in. Things happen. I actually just heard the song on the way here, Big Daddy Weave. I've seen too many good things, or I've seen, I forget the name. I'm like, don't forget this name, Jen. But basically, from the things that I've seen, I can't turn away from God, no matter how hard I try. I'm going to call you out. Allison reached out to me a few days before her mom passed, and she said, Jenny, the only people in the world who are allowed to call me Jenny are my niece and nephews. She's allowed to call me Jenny. Growing up, no one was allowed to call me Jenny. She said, Jenny, I had to call and tell you something. I've been praying for my mom. And, she got into a story about how she asked God to show her a sign. And she said, Jenny, he did it. But not only did he do that, I heard him say, your mom is going to be okay. And I got all choked up, and I'm like, you just helped me by telling me your story. And I'm like, and I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy for your mom. And I'm like, you don't even understand how badly I needed to hear that right now, because I once again was losing hope in some things that were going on. We all know Julie didn't make it. But I said this to Allison a few hours before Julie passed. I said, she is going to be okay. Not the okay we want, but she is okay. She's with my dad. I couldn't fathom living in this world without my dad. And now looking back, I'm like, you know what, God, I get it. He struggled with so much in his life. He struggled with women hurting him left and right. And, my mom it was ugly. He struggled with weight issues. That man suffered so much in life. He doesn't suffer anymore. And when 2020 came with the whole COVID thing, my dad, it's funny, I actually did it this morning. I haven't worn the shirt in a while. And I felt like it was up around my neck, and I'm like stretching it out. I'm like, I feel like my dad. My dad couldn't handle anything tight around him. I said he would have never survived COVID because he couldn't wear a mask. I'm like, he wouldn't have. I couldn't see it at that time. But God knew, like, this side of it, I was going to be like, that's why my dad went when he went. He wouldn't have survived this part. But when I was sitting here last week and I was watching the girls sing, and I'm like, you know what? That is what God is all about. These girls know what their mom is going through at home. She is at home preparing for her transformation to walking with Jesus. And they're up here singing about God. That is what hope is. Hope is seeing the amount of people that were here yesterday. Pastor Dave said it. This church was full. We were crammed in the sound booth back there. There were people on the lawn. People didn't know where to park. That is hope. That is people having the hope that one day they are going to walk in heaven with Julie again, and they are. They're going to walk with God. They're going to walk with Jesus. I'm going to walk with my dad again. And that's the stuff I have to keep focused on, is if they are as young as they are and they can have that hope, why me at almost 42 can't I have that hope? I can, because I've seen too much now. Jeremiah 29:11. Dave's favorite verse, for I know the plans I have for you. Say it. I know you're drinking your coffee. God knows the plans he has for us. And in the midst of what we're going through, it's so hard to see it. It's like we have blinders on. And it's so easy to be like, God, why? Where are you? It's okay to get angry. It's not okay to blame him, because he gave us free will thousands of years ago. He can't fix everything. He can't fix every person that has cancer. But let me tell you something. You want to see hope? Go to a cancer center. When I took my dad to chemo, I sat in there and I looked around, 40, 50 people all hooked up, getting their chemo, and the hope that they had in their eyes, the hope that they had in their voices, they knew how sick they were. But they said, I'm still here. As long as I'm living and breathing, I still have hope. So why should I let the things going on in my family take that hope from me? God has a plan for us. In the midst of our trials, it is often hard to trust that he knows what he is doing. That has a lot to do with control. And that's something I struggle with. I don't like giving up control, which is probably why I told Madison she's never allowed to move out. And if I had it my way, my son would be still living with us, because I don't know how to give up control. But I'm not in control. And once I learn that I'm not in control, I have to give it up to God, and I just have to trust him, because hope, faith, and trust, they all go together. I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday from Stephen Furtick, and I know some people have issues with him, but I was just kind of like, I wanted to listen to some things about hope. And one of the things that he had said is, where did I put it? We lose our hope because we have put ourselves out there and we have been let down. And you build up that PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. You build that up because you think to yourself, well, I got let down this time, and I got let down this time, and I got let down this time. Why should I trust this fourth time? And you just give up. But that's the thing. It's all about faith. It's about stepping out and saying, you know what? Yeah, things may not have gone the way I wanted, but God has a plan. There is a reason he didn't let things go a certain way. There's a reason you are stuck in traffic, even though traffic is horrible. Maybe there was an accident down the road that he prevented you from being a part of. And that's the thing that we have to focus on. Because the flip side of hope is fear. And sometimes fear and despair are easier to fall into than hope. And that comes from Global Brain Health Institute. They're easier to fall into. It's easy. That's what we want. We all want easy. I have to remember, God loves me more than my parents have ever loved me. God loves me more than Dave will ever love me, which is kind of hard to believe. But I have to remember that. I have to remember that he knows what he is doing. He knows why he is allowing these things to happen. Am I still going to struggle? Absolutely. If you ask me right now, do I have hope I'll ever hold another grandchild? I don't. Some may say, well, that means you don't have faith in God. And that's my control issue, because I'm like, oh, I have a lot of faith in God, just not in this little area. But it's something I'm working on. I do a lot of my devotions in the Bible are all about hope and trust and worry, because they're the things I struggle with the most. But I have to have that hope, because someone said a long time ago, if you don't believe in God and you believe that when we die, we are just worm food. I don't know why they use that analogy. If that's what you believe in, and then you die and there really truly is a heaven and a God, you're stuck being worm food. But if you have faith and that hope that one day you're going to walk in heaven with Jesus, and when you die, you do get to be there, look at what you've gained compared to that person who never had that hope and that faith and that trust. Dave said it to me a few days ago. There is absolutely nothing that we have if we don't have hope. We're going to be miserable. One of our congregation members who can't be here today because she's currently sick from the chemo treatment she's going through. If she doesn't have hope, what does she have? You sit there and you feel bad for yourself. You start to become a victim. We can't live like that. Jesus tells us not to live like that. Hope is crucial in times of uncertainty and in dealing with adversity. And Romans 12:12 says this: rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. That is what I have learned. When I am losing my hope, when I am losing my faith, when I am losing my trust, that God is going to get me on the other side of this, that God is going to get our family on the other side of this, I start praying. And I talk to him, and I talk to Jesus, because he is the one. I know he is sitting there and he's saying, Jen, I know it's hard. I'm right there with you. I don't like it. But we had to give up that free will all those years ago. And I'm right here with you. And it's okay, because I'm weeping with you. So my encouragement for you today is remember this. 1 Corinthians 13:13. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. And Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. We have to have our hope in him, because if not, we might as well all go home right now and never come back on a Sunday, because what more do we have? God will get us through anything. And in the most impossible situations where you're like, there is no way I'm going to make it out, he's going to pull you through. And when you're on the other side of it, it's going to teach you a lesson. It's going to become part of your testimony. And you're going to see God was there all along. My favorite poem in the entire world is Footprints in the Sand. And it was my dad's favorite. That's one thing we connected on. When you feel like you can't go any further, let Jesus pick you up and carry you. He can handle it. He hung on that cross. If he can handle all the sins of all the people in this world, even the people who don't know him, he can handle what you're going through. And think of all the people in the world who don't have Jesus or don't know God. What hope do they have? So we have to make sure we get out there and we tell them all about our God and our Jesus and the amazing things that he has done. Thank you, guys.